All right, welcome. We're diving straight into the deep end here, looking at the architecture of the Indian legislature. We're going to break down its core structure, piece by piece, to get you absolutely ready for your exams.
So, to really get a grip on the legislature, we've got to start with the most basic question of all, right? Why do we even need a parliament? It's so much more than just a building. Think of it as the very engine room of Indian democracy. So, let's dig into why it's so incredibly important.
Okay, first things first, it's really crucial to get this. Parliament isn't just some, law-making factory. I mean, yeah, that's a huge part of its job, for sure. But its role is way, way broader and a lot more dynamic than that.
And this, right here, is the key takeaway. You can almost think of Parliament as the central processing unit, the CPU, for our entire democratic system. It's that central hub where all the nation's business gets debated, scrutinized, and, at the end of the day, decided. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, how all these functions actually come to life. The floor of Parliament can be a pretty wild place, You've got walkouts, protests, super passionate debates. But all of that action, all that noise, it all serves one purpose: to hold the government accountable. And don't forget, Parliament has the ultimate power. It can choose and dismiss the government.
Okay, so that leads to a pretty logical question, right? If one house is already so important, why did India's constitution makers decide to go with a bicameral legislature? And bicameral, that's just the fancy term for a system with two houses. Let's really break down the thinking behind that.
So let's lock in that term right now: bicameral. For us in India, that means we have the Rajya Sabha, which is the Council of States, and the Lok Sabha, the House of the People. Two distinct chambers, and each one has a super important, unique job to do. This really shows you the genius behind the design. I mean, think about it. For a country as massive and diverse as India, having two houses is a fantastic way to make sure all the different social groups and all the geographical regions actually get a voice. And on top of that, that second house acts like a crucial safeguard, a double check, to make sure no big decisions are made in a hurry. Yeah, you can really think of this as a critical quality control step. A bill gets passed in one house, but it's not law yet. Nope. It has to go over to the other house for a second look, a second discussion, and that process, it forces everyone to reconsider and refine the details, which hopefully leads to much better, more thoughtful laws. Now, this is a really crucial difference to understand. It's all about how the states are represented. So in a symmetrical system, like what you see in the USA, every single state gets the same number of representatives. Think 2 senators for tiny Rhode Island and 2 senators for massive California. But India went a different route. We chose an asymmetrical system. Here, representation is proportional to population, so bigger states get more seats. It's a system designed to reflect the country's diverse geography much more fairly. All right, let's do a deep dive into the first of our 2 houses. We'll start with the upper house, the Rajya Sabha, also known as the Council of States. Okay, the key thing to remember about the Rajya Sabha is that it represents the states, and its members are elected indirectly. What does that mean? Well, you and we elect our state-level representatives, right? The members of the Legislative Assembly, or MLAs. It's those MLAs who then turn around and elect the Rajya Sabha members for their state. So it's a 2-step process. And how long do they serve? 6 years. Members of the Rajya Sabha have a 6-year term, which is meant to give them a longer, more stable perspective on things. And this is a super important feature. The Rajya Sabha is a permanent house. It never gets completely dissolved. Instead, it's a staggered system. 1/3 of its members retire every 2 years, and elections are held for just those seats. This is fantastic for continuity, because it means there's always a legislative body in session, even if the Lok Sabha gets dissolved. And there's another really cool feature. On top of all the elected members, the President of India actually nominates 12 members to the Rajya Sabha. And these aren't politicians, usually. They're experts, people who have really made a mark in fields like literature, science, art, or social service. It's a way to bring some amazing outside expertise directly into the lawmaking process. Okay, so we've covered the upper house. Now, let's flip to the other side of the coin. The powerhouse of direct democracy, the lower house. This is the Lok Sabha, the House of the People. This is where that principle of one person, one vote really comes alive. The entire country is carved up into 543 constituencies. And the idea is that each one has a roughly equal population. So when it's election time, the voters in each of those constituencies directly elect one representative, their member of parliament, or MP, to go to the Lok Sabha.
So the term for the Lok Sabha is 5 years. But here's the big difference from the Rajya Sabha. It's not permanent. It can be dissolved early, for instance, if a government loses its majority in the House. Okay, this slide right here is your ultimate exam prep tool. It lays it all out, side by side. You've got the key contrasts: indirectly elected versus directly elected, representing the states versus representing the people, a 6-year term for members versus a 5-year term for the whole House, and, of course, a permanent House versus one that can be dissolved. This is perfect for locking in those core differences.
And there you have it. That's our look at the foundational architecture of the Indian legislature. We've talked about why we need it in the first place, and we've broken down the really distinct roles of its two houses. Now, to really understand how this all works in practice, its powers, its procedures, you'll want to continue on with the next part of this chapter.